This is One-on-One with Jasper Cole, Hollywood's bad guy, and so much more. Actor, talent manager, producer, and more. Now he's sitting down with today's top newsmakers from entertainment, politics, pop culture, and beyond. This is One-on-One with Jasper Cole.
Woohoo! Howdy, 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 and welcome to One-on-One with Jasper Cole. This is your host, Mr. Jasper Cole, and we are live today at Temple Bay Studios, right here in Hollywood, California. This is everyone. This is episode 2 of season 4. I've actually had a show of some sort for 8 years now, but this is the 4th season of One-on-One with Jasper Cole. And I'm so thrilled because as my co-host today, I have my original producer, Mr. John Williams.
Hey, Jasper.
Welcome back.
Hey, Jeff, good to be here. Good to be here.
It's been a while since I've seen you. We talk on the phone and we do the Twitter and the Facebook and all that stuff.
I gotta get you in virtual reality. That's where I spend most of my time.
Right. We needed a whole episode just on virtual reality. Sure. Actually, let's do that.
Okay.
But speaking of returning guests, it's been 6 whole months since we had this guest, and we couldn't wait to get him back in here. Please welcome General Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Sometimes known as the mayor of Skid Row. He doesn't really like that, but that's how people know him. So.
Well, I mean, if it helps.
Yeah.
If it helps bring attention to...
Because whenever I've mentioned you, people either go, isn't he the mayor of Skid Row? Yeah. You know, General Jeff, hey, he's the mayor of Skid Row.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with that. I'll take it as a compliment. But what really...
But you didn't make it up.
No, I didn't. There were some news reporters that, attributed that to me. And so, but a lot of people think it's a real title.
Right.
There's funding and there's a position and power. You're
the
mayor of Skid Row. Why don't you do something about it?
Wouldn't that be nice?
About home. I mean,
that's the way it should be.
That's what we would like to happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, Jeff is like, I kept saying, you look younger, you look like a different person. He's like half his body here. He's really lost some weight.
I found the fountain of youth.
Yes.
It's been a hot summer. I mean, it started late, but it's been
you'll be doing your health and fitness tips next.
And for $29.99, if you act now, we'll throw in. Oh no.
Yeah. The General Jeff Juicer.
That's funny.
General Jeff not included.
Everyone can find you on Facebook, right?
If they have a Facebook account.
Yeah.
Quite
these days,
people reach out,
but it's General Jeff,
right?
Yeah, let me. I'm just so happy to be here, but because we're talking about a serious subject, I guess I have to kind of get serious for a minute. Mm-hmm. But I'm really just a light-hearted, jovial guy. But unfortunately, the last 13 years of my life, I've dedicated, for free as a volunteer. To help homeless folks in Skid Row and downtown Los Angeles, which is the homeless capital of America. And so I have to kind of change my tone, right? Because it's no laughing matter.
No.
So in that regard, my apologies, but I'm about to do this segue into this serious thing. And so I'm glad. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely.
First of all,
thank you for joining
to give
us.
this wonderful update. It's such an important and vital update to your listeners. And we're going to start off with my contact information. Apparently, so I'm on Facebook as General Jeff, General Jeff. I'm on Instagram at Skid Row General Jeff. I'm on Twitter at Go Skid Row Go. And my email is issuesandsolutions@yahoo.com.
Right. That's a great way for people to...
ISSUESANDSOLUTIONS @yahoo. And so, normally I give up my cell phone, but I'm thinking, I'm just going to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting all these calls.
You're like,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
The robocall stuff. And so
nothing
against my Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters, no disrespect.
Yeah, but still, that's
I do a horrible Spanish, I don't know any other. I speak 3 languages, English, Ebonics, and Foul. and they interchange, equally. But for this interview, I think I'll only be using English.
No Espanol.
None whatsoever.
Well, we talked briefly before about... it's sad to say that the homeless situation is, well, it's good that it's in the forefront of the news. It's bad that it has to be in the forefront because the situation is not getting better. It's, in my opinion, getting worse. But I will turn to you and say, what's your, we mentioned the fact that Trump came to town and Beto O'Rourke came to town, and there's, Mara Garcetti does almost a weekly show on Spectrum One News with Cohen. I'm forgetting Alexa Cohen, Alex. Anyway, and he does his show every week that I watch. That kind of gives his interpretation of what's happening. But
I like the way you said that interpretation. That's well said.
But as someone who's in there daily, feet to the fire, what is your update for us? Where should we say anything positive that's happening?
No.
And seen.
No. Nothing positive.
That's the sad part.
Wow. It's just more of the same.
More of the same.
And I've been saying for 5 years now that Skid Row will be the same, if not the worst, for the next 10 to 15 years. And for the next 10 years. And we're 5 years into that.
We're already 5 years.
So there's more of the same.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because understand, like when the politicians speak, none of them on any level, whether it's local, state, or federal, the three levels of government, none of them ran on a platform of homelessness or experts on homelessness. Right. So they don't know. Let's just put that out. They themselves don't know. So they defer to their, quote unquote, nonprofit partners, whether, their government agencies that are have a specific focus on homelessness. And, that's where the poverty pimping comes in. And so the politicians use the data and statistics and talking points from the poverty pimps, the nonprofit folks. But poverty pimping is not just limited to the nonprofit sector, but they use their talking points to legitimize themselves, and they can speak from a knowledgeable perspective. Where I am, I'm born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. I'm a homegrown Angelino. They don't need me in Beverly Hills. They seem to be doing quite well over there. But I care very deeply about my city. Right. And I feel that the city of Los Angeles could be one of the greatest cities in all the world, if not the greatest city in all the world. And so let me go where I can help and be most helpful. And I determined that would be Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles because it's commonly known as the homeless capital of America.
Right.
So quite naturally, it's the homeless capital of Los Angeles County. Quite naturally, it's the homeless capital of the city of Los Angeles. And so I spent a lot of time in City Hall, dealing with the city of Los Angeles and in the county buildings and all over, just trying to network, trying to help give them real-time information. But there's a blessing and a curse because in giving them real-time information, they can immediately use that and interject that to what they're already doing or what they're not doing or what they should be doing. But then all that does is prolong the problem because, they may use tidbits of what we've suggested the first time, and then they'll go into the other stuff, the problematic stuff, and then they'll continue to get a paycheck as if they really know what they're doing, and then they're part of the problem. So it's kind of hard to vote them out and vote someone else in that has a specific focus on homelessness because they don't exist. Right. And then people say, well, Jeff, why don't you run? And then it's like, well, it would be great if it was just only one position with a specific focus on homelessness, great. But then there's economics and there's, foreign policy, on the presidential, there's so many different other things, and it's very, very, very complicated. And it's kind of hard. Like, there are going to be people on both sides of every single issue. And as a politician, you can't please everybody. No. Right. So how do you balance it back and forth to make it work? Right. And unfortunately, when it comes to homelessness, no matter the back and forth thing, it still hurts the people that are out on the streets. Right. And so, you want to please the business owners, the property owners, you want to keep the sidewalks clear. You want to, have a nice, pretty city. But then at the same time, there's limitations because you don't have enough housing to house homeless folks. Right. So you have to allow homeless folks on the sidewalks, but then you don't want them to get too comfortable. And, so there's always this balancing act that will never please everybody. And so at the end of the day, you just, you're going back and forth between these enemies or those, and these people hate you, those people hate you. And
meanwhile, more and more homeless are coming on the streets every day.
And so unfortunately, because in America, this is a capitalistic society, and so how a lot of people are capitalizing in terms of real estate, California is prime real estate. So it's like, jack the prices up. Right. Yeah. I can maximize my profit and I'll be great. And everybody that's connected with me, whether coworkers or family members that I'm providing for. So that portion of American population is great. However, those that are renters, that are leasors, At all, they suffered. Mm-hmm. So in capitalist society, one entity has to, capitalize on the demise of others.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, in homelessness, it's the human beings, the homeless folks that are being, are coming out on the losing end. And so more and more, that sector is always.
Well, and we talked about before how the quote face of homelessness changes so much because it's now families, it's single mothers and their kids.
Sure.
Like you said, it's people who lost their housing because of economic. Yes. They can't, even though they're working full time. Two people, they can't afford the prices in LA because now it's the have and the have-nots in the city. But is there any movement in the housing part of it? Is there any movement with the city trying to build any affordable housing? Because that seems to be the thing that they keep saying we're going to do it. We're going to find that property. They talked about Lancaster and Palmdale.
Sure. Well, yes. So I always have to discipline myself. Right. Answer the question first, then expound. So yes, there is movement. Yeah. However, it's at a snail's pace, and it's little to nothing that we can. There's no instant gratification.
Right.
So, we spoke last time about Measure HHH, $1.2 billion that the citizens decide to tax themselves, and actually property owners tax. If you don't own property, you didn't charge. You're not taxed, but the property owners. So $1.2 billion. Let me officially say that entire so that was voted in November 2016. So it's a 10-year plan. So November 2026 is when it matures. Right now, it's not even November 2019. Every single penny of Measure HHH money has been accounted for. Wow. Has been allotted.
Wow.
3 years.
So whether it's current projects that are under development, or projects that are in the pipeline that have submitted paperwork saying we need that funding to build this project. And as they collect and try to work multiple funding sources to get put all the money. Well, at least we got some Measure HHH funded. Now we need to. So Measure HHH didn't house, build complete units.
Right.
Like if there's 100-unit building,
they
may have kicked in on portions of it. So say like if a property. A project for 100 units for homeless, low-income individuals. Say if it costs $30 million. Measure HHH may have kicked in $3 million.
Wow.
So then they've still got to scramble to, the developers got to scramble to locate the other $27 million worth from bank loans or whatever they have you. And so Measure HHH pretty much like spread it out. And so the whole thing is now those projects, some of them, like I said, the money is already, they try to, let's
so 3 years in and it's already
and
done.
So and then it takes on average 3 years to build the average a typical low-income housing that homeless folks are in. And so we're not going to start seeing anything until the next 3 years. We'll start the first units. And so, but the thing is that the rate that homelessness is increasing this year in the last 12 months is 16% increase in the city of Los Angeles alone. The people that they would house will be replaced by new homeless folks. So there will be never during this 10-year solution, Measure HHH, will there be a significant reduction in the homeless numbers. So $1.2 billion basically went down the drain.
Right.
And so we're in the process of witnessing this happen right before our very eyes.
So when Mayor Garcetti's, for instance, if he's asked that question, like, so Mayor, where did that money go, and how come it's not doing what is his?
Well, he's going to say, all the money's all this out there. They've got all these projects in the pipeline. They're on pace to build, thousands of units. They've got the services are going to be attached to, so it's just
all the spin.
One side. Spin is one side of the story. It's not going to give the full view of the story, and that's where it's like he would never want to do an interview or debate with me because
have you ever tried?
No, I as long as I've been in Skid Row, I've always thrown down the gauntlet and said, because I'm outspoken in terms of the truth. If there's anybody, whether it's the nonprofit organizations, the politicians, the business sector, whether it's the downtown business sector, LA Chamber of Commerce, whether it's the Los Angeles Police Department, LA Sheriff's Department, any and all comers, or just concerned citizens that think they're wise enough about this situation, I'll go anytime, any place, anywhere, and debate anybody. And in my 13 years, no one has taken me up on that offer.
Not one politician?
Of course not. Their political career, they would get exposed.
So I have a question for you. What if you were to speak to landlords that are now being incentivized to open up their housing to, let's say, Section 8 and low income? Could you help convince them to and dispel myths and stereotypes and all that? Could you help?
No.
Okay.
You know why?
Tell me.
Because they're looking at Airbnb dollars.
Okay.
It's and no disrespect to our homeless folks, but they're like, it's a cleaner clientele. It's more money.
Okay.
It's a consistent business. And it's the type of business that they are, encouraging. So the people, the renters, they come in, they do what they do, and then they leave. And there's not a whole lot of, damage to the property. There's not a whole lot of cleanup fees, things of that sort. So while there's the option, while the politicians are saying, hey, what about this Section 8 program? What about this voucher program?
Right.
We got extra incentives and all that. They're like, oh, that's great. Yeah, we'll look into that. Then, how can I register for the Airbnb program? And so it doesn't matter. They're dangling bait, but the landlords aren't accepting it.
That's the concern.
So, but the politicians aren't talking about that.
Right.
So it's just like with the homeless veterans, and he talked about we're going to give out 10,000 vouchers, but if you don't have landlords 10,000 available units that are accepted, they're just walking around with a piece of paper in their hand, saying that we will be able to pay you rent if you house me.
Right now.
And so while they're broadcasting, look at all the vouchers we gave out. That's not a solution if not, less than 1% of them are actually being used. And so then, and it's unfortunate that and then the mainstream media and folks who say, they just administered 5,000 new vouchers. Right. Not even to mention the old vouchers.
And we're trying to get more from the federal government
as
well.
Right. Vouchers. Like that's not a solution.
Without the housing to put the people in, the vouchers are useless.
And that's the key. Yeah. And that's the key. And so the whole thing is, there's no sense of urgency. Why don't we expedite? I hate to say we because it makes it sound like it's us in this room. Why don't they? The elected officials, you got to specific is everything. Because then we wound up letting them off the hook that way. Yeah. So, we want to be specific and say, why don't our elected officials streamline the process in terms of how to expedite the building of these projects, so we can get the units. We need the units online. That we can't clear the sidewalks. You can't say, hey, buddy, you guys are on this whole entire block. There's 100 of you guys. You can't sleep on this block. Okay, well, we have nowhere else to go. Where can we sleep? I don't know, but you can't sleep here. That's not. That's a ridiculous conversation. But that's where LAPD is. And so they don't have any other tools. Well, if you remain here, we're gonna have to arrest you for loitering, or it's 4118D, you're a violation of this one, and then they'll take all the property and throw it in the trash. And it is criminalization of homelessness. And instead of where there's a shelter, even though I don't believe in, I don't condone the shelter thing. But the shelter
talk about the shelter situation.
We need actual housing. There's another organization in Skid Row called Los Angeles Community Action Network, LA CAN. One of their slogans is house keys, not handcuffs. Give people house keys. Don't give them handcuffs. Right. Because the one thing about it, if you're homeless, you stay in a shelter. You don't have keys. Right. If you don't have keys, you're homeless. Yeah. I don't care if you're sleeping on your buddy's couch.
You're just off the elements.
Right, exactly. And so the thing about shelter, again, it's not housing. While it is classified as a form of housing, it's not housing. Maybe it's a dorm.
Some of them are calling it homed, like they're homed.
Well, they're rebranding.
They're being put they're housed, I guess would be the but you hear that
it's not
that
true
spin
that,
on it too.
That's a blatant disrespectful spin.
Yeah.
And just like the Mayor Garcetti that you mentioned, he has this current project, bridge housing, where it's with the shelter.
That's what he talks about.
And the whole thing, it's like one shelter in there, all 15 council districts, and the whole thing. But it's no one focused on. They're only supposed to be up for 3 years.
Oh.
And so you shelter people for 3 years. Okay, when that funding expires,
where do they go?
They know where they go.
Back to the streets. But no one talks about. This is a great solution. That's not a solution. It's a temporary band-aid.
While they are
because of what he's saying is, and that reason why they chose the 3 years is because we've got measure HHH shovels in the ground. And then it takes 3 years to build the actual units. And then, so we'll get them in shelters now. And then when that expires, they can just simply transfer over to the units. And so on paper, it sounds like it's just such a well-oiled machine. Yeah. And it's such a simplified process. That's not reality.
And when you get even outside of Skid Row, like if you notice now in Hollywood, like, on Cahuenga, or just there, just today on Highland, you're seeing the tent cities under the bridges. When you see those trucks that come in and they scrape away people's stuff, you know how the city will come in and
the cleanup.
They do the cleanup.
Sure.
Do they give a warning? Like,
They're supposed to.
They're supposed to post,
and so there's notification. We in Skid Row fought for that because they started in Skid Row with that in 2012. And so,
how much notice do they give?
It's supposed to be 24 hours to 48, isn't it?
I mean,
so it's interesting because now the city has overlapping programs that deal with that specifically. So there's the bulk, the Operation Healthy Streets is the main program. In addition to that, they have a bulky item cleanup thing, so where they just come around and we're just inspecting for bulky item, like if there's a couch or I item. But I've had
you get charged for that on your bill too.
And I've had a problem with that in Skid Row because I know people personally that they had a microwave oven. And it got taken away from them. You're out there. So when they say you can't have barbecue grills, some people don't like to eat in the missions, or they don't trust handed out food because they don't know the history on it. Right. So they have to fend for themselves. Okay, do for self. That's great. So they may have whether it's a hibachi or a larger barbecue grill, and then they hustle up their meats and then they barbecue. Okay, that's great. The LAPD and public safety officials say, because of propane, fire, it's danger, it's this, is that. And so then they take that, well, he's like, I got a microwave oven. In certain areas, somebody may have, a generator. Right. And then they'll run some plugs this way, that way, whatever. And so everybody plug, whether they're TVs and DVDs, plug phone chargers.
I've seen it.
So, you know what I mean? So people can stay current. And this one particular guy is microwave oven, so he can eat. And they came to, that microwave oven's got to go. It's a bulky item.
What?
Wait, it's supposed to be 60, and
I mean, really, seriously.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to like officers' discretion, or the enforcers' discretion on what they just. And so at the end of the day, if they see somebody's look like they're living too comfortable, they're just going to go in and just turn their life upside down.
And what do they do with that stuff? They just
technically, and so there's that. Thank you for asking that question, because technically on the books, on the paper says they're supposed to put that in storage for 30 days. And give the person time, and they're supposed to give out paperwork to notify the person so they can bring that to go pick up their property. Yeah. And a lot of times either it's not there in storage, or they just totally discard it.
And this is what we need our cops to be spending their time. That's just what our taxpayers, rather than putting the money toward helping these people, we're paying for their time to be getting their microwave ovens and having to put it on paper.
And actually, if you look at your electric bill, like I was saying, there's a bulky item, trash removal. There's a fee that's on your electric bill every month. So we're actually paying for that. But I mean, it's a small fee, but it's at the same time it adds up.
It adds up, right?
Yeah. But the other thing I want to say about the people who have the couches and things like that, and have pictures hanging on their tents, those are the people that are primed for housing. Those are people who are taking pride in their environment. They're taking pride, and those are the people that should be first on the list to be housed based.
Because they clearly just
unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
I know.
And so the housing list CES, Coordinated Entry System.
Yes.
And what that is based on your disabilities.
Right.
The more disabilities and ailments you have, the more in dire
up,
need you are.
Right.
So if you're mentally ill, how many years you've been
on the street,
chronically homeless, whether you got AIDS, cancer, whatever, mental, and all of a sudden it's a point system.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the more that's wrong with you get more points, and then you.
But that means you're eligible for a voucher or transitional housing or something like that if there's housing available.
Right. And so now there's nothing available, so you're just on the waiting
list. Like you said, you're walking around with a voucher.
Right.
Which
which expires, by the way. It expires, and you have to go through the whole process again to get it renewed.
And so CES was supposed to be, that was the old system, and CES was supposed to be the new solution where they don't kick you out and send you to the back of the line. You just kind of morph into this little triage queue area on a computer until your paperwork is updated, and then you fall right back where you were. And it's like, and you magically, who's doing?
I know, right?
Is that reality? That while they say these things, and then we the people, we can't cross reference or fact check these folks, so we just accept it as absolute value. But in the meantime, at the end of the day, the sidewalks are piling up with people with nowhere to go.
Right.
And then they're being penalized for being where they are, and they have nowhere to go.
Right.
So we need, it's like, and all that Mojave Desert stuff, and all, that's just not realistic.
Right.
Especially when you talk about if someone, if you're criminalized and you go to jail, you get out, you may be on probation or parole, where there's warrants or whatever you have, and then all of a sudden you become property of Los Angeles County. You can't cross county lines.
Right.
Mojave Desert is a different county, so it's not that simple.
Right.
You can't. If there was going to be a transfer process, there's a lot of paperwork that Los Angeles County and whatever county Mojave Desert is in, they would have to make some type of political agreement. Just like with the overcrowding in California's prisons.
Right.
And then they made agreements with other states to say, hey, we want to transfer some of our inmates to your state so they can finish out their term so we can ease overcrowding. So those type of negotiations, there's no politicians that are talking about making those types of type of agreements. And so because that'll look bad of them, like they're still criminalizing and all these sideways types of solutions instead of building housing. We need shovels in the ground.
Yeah.
I want to talk about homelessness on a national level.
Yes.
Because, in Skid Row, we had a prominent visitor.
Yes.
Did you hear about that?
I heard about it. Were you around when that happened?
I was around. I was not on the street. I was not going to be photo opped.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a guy. Hey, come here, photo. And then my photos are no. And then all of a sudden, his contributions or are validated by legitimate. No. We don't.
Yeah, and he contributed nothing. I mean, he basically was like saying, "Yeah, there's this bad homeless situation, and we really need to do something about it." And
you gonna tell the listeners who we're talking about?
We're talking about Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he really. I mean, he lived in New York all those years. He couldn't have been that blind to reality. But he just discovered homeless people. Like, it's a new thing and it's a bad thing, and we need to fix it.
Well, it's a lot was said that is so eye-opening. And so, first, I didn't know when they first announced it, I didn't realize he had some fundraising lined up that he was already coming for.
On his way
and
through.
then it was, by the way, what's up with this homeless thing that's happening. So, but it was, projected and portrayed to us like Trump's coming out here solely to focus on, do something about homelessness. And then it was just this shockwave, send a shockwave through Skid Row, like, oh boy, what does this mean? And so it's interesting because all the nonprofit poverty pimps lined up, ready to receive him so that they can, connect directly with him. Yo, please, when with your federal funding, come to our organization, we can do more of it. And he didn't even cut he sent Dr. Ben Carson. So that was hilarious.
Sleepy Ben.
And then, unfortunately,
Urban
Dr.
housing
Ben,
developer.
Yeah, the head of HUD. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, for those that don't know. But they said a lot of the parameters And they set all as far as homelessness nationwide, and they also set 100% the parameters and definitions in terms of homelessness as far as Washington D.C. goes, and so that's dangerous when you've got this guy,
this incompetent guy,
and based on his language. You know, he is so far removed from reality in terms of what's really going on the street. You know, maybe he just. Yeah. And it's shocking that, you know, you would think he would be surrounded by, you know, folks that could fact check, that could do research assistants, or that could bring him real time information. Yeah. So that when he speaks on it, at least he speaks a little more eloquently and knowledgeable. They just say stuff that's just reckless, and
he kind of Ben will laugh and. Because he doesn't know what he's saying. He'll just go, I don't know.
Like homeless people chose to be homeless type. Chose to be.
So basically, Trump's appearance did nothing to raise any funding?
No, because anytime, you know, anytime Trump, you know, so it's like blaring trumpet. You know, you blare like a trumpet, you know, you get people's attention.
Right.
So there were additional conversations, a subsequent conversation that happened because he blared his trumpet, and the notes came out to us a melody about homelessness. Great. Right. Now, as far as him specifically, first of all, the notes were off key, so they weren't going to do specifically doing nothing that we could sing along to.
Pick a key, Trump. Right?
You know, we're speaking metaphorically, folks. But,
you're a little pitchy, dude.
You know, I understand your listeners are of advanced thinking, so we're going to hit them with with something that they don't get on just mainstream radio.
Thank you.
So, you know, and I appreciate that, and so those of us in Skid Row, we can't, you know, we have the wherewithal to speak about homelessness on many different depths. I want to talk about homelessness on a national level and for a moment, and if you will,
yes.
I don't know how much time we got. You know,
we got
the conversation
time.
always goes
go.
great, because last time we ran out of quickly. You know, we came up for air, and they said, "Well, we got to wrap it up." Like, wait a minute, I still got some.
You need your own show, Jeff.
Yeah. And then it was like, "Well, we'll have you." Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I need my own producer. Hint. No, and so I hear you're one of the best in the business. Let me stop. But so let me just take this time out. Now that, you know, because it's a lot of information to digest, I want to just throw in a little bright breather in there. But let's talk about how Washington, D.C. looks at homelessness. So, you know, there are 3 levels of government: local, state, and federal. Here in Los Angeles, is L.A. City and L.A. County are broken up into 2 different levels, but they're still local government. So local, state, and federal, three levels of government. Washington, D.C., you know, when they come up with solutions, they have to look at what's in the best interest for the most Americans that they can handle at one time, they can service at one time. So let's just say, for the sake of simple math, there are 400 million Americans in this country. Just simple math, rounded off, 400 million. The reports, and I don't like the data and statistics, I don't throw that stuff out there, but if we just, for the sake of this conversation, take it at face value, the highest is, they're saying there's around 1 million homeless people nationwide.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that 1 million is less than 1% of the overall American population. So they cannot allocate significant funding for less than 1% of the population. And so in that regard, that's why you don't hear a lot coming from the federal government.
Yeah.
Because they're looking like, well, how can we justify that? It's a data-driven solutions, a structure, and whatever reports are being put together, even if Mayor Garcetti or whomever, Gavin Newsom, whoever puts forth something, hey, Trump, nice to see you. Let me put this report in your hand. Oh, yeah, here, Dr. Ben, take this. We'll get you report back to me in the morning. And they'll look at it and they're like, the numbers are too low for Washington, D.C.
But they're going to increase if they don't do something about it.
Well, it almost sounds like it's going to it's going to have to increase before they do anything about it. It's got to get to that percentage.
So if homelessness goes from 1 million to 4 million,
then they'll take notice.
Say, hey, now we're 1% of the, but that number is still low.
Right. But that's a reactive solution. That's not that they're not being proactive.
But that's how Washington D.C. works, and so a lot of Americans don't understand how politics works, and so that's why they'll say, oh, the homelessness is a local matter. Because trust and believe, when I first became a community activist, I know we're going to address homeless on the local, state, and federal level.
Right.
So, because all these, Skid Row has representation on all three levels of government. And so I'm like, okay, let me reach out to these folks. And so when I got, started with the local folks at City Hall, then went to state Sacramento and dealt with assembly members and senators, and then went over to the federal government, congressmen and congresswomen and the senators and the House of Representatives, all those folks. And then the Washington, D.C. folks are saying it's too small to show up as a single blip on our radar.
Well,
and we need a few blips to make it a national conversation. It's not enough there. Come, so thank you for stopping by our office, but come by when it's a national conversation. And so now that Trump has spoken on it, there's our national conversation. I tried to. So then, years ago, though, I went back and was like, okay, let me see if we could get, a state of emergency declared.
Yes.
So I'm the one. So, while a lot of people are talking about, I don't want to, pat myself on the back.
No, go ahead.
Toot my horn, but I'm the one that created that that line of logic, because there's no sense of urgency. And so, unfortunately, and we got shot, so it's local level in Los Angeles, they can't declare states of emergency.
Yeah, right.
So it have to come from the governor.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Governor Brown, and then the president. And so when I first originated that, Obama was in office, and it was like, oh, maybe if there's some kind of way, but they weren't. They weren't. So what was interesting, but in the language that came back, they said states of emergency. And actually this, it was echoed from Sacramento as well, that state of emergencies are declared when, are reserved for natural disasters. My response was, the state of homelessness is an unnatural disaster. So if we can get HUD to change their definitions, or get the federal government to change their definition, or add a definition of state of emergencies applied to not only natural disasters, but also unnatural disasters that cause a lot of, grief to a significant amount of Americans, then there, it could be justified that, these emergency funds can be released to address the issue. And so I try to write up in my best legal language on behalf of them. So all they have to do is just sign off on it. Zero traction. And so, so frustrating, but, no stone unturned. That's where we're at. And so now, Governor Newsom in the state of California, he has a history of specifically addressing homelessness in San Francisco when he was mayor.
Right.
And so now that he's there as the governor, he is like, okay, what about this state of emergency? And he's like, whoa, hold on. But what he did do is he initiated a task force, a statewide task force on homelessness, and attached $1 billion to it. And so that's run by L.A. County Board of Supervisors. It's co-chaired. The task force is co-chaired by L.A. County Board of Supervisor Mark Riley Thomas and former State Senator Darrell Steinberg.
Okay.
And so they've had two meetings thus far.
That's a step in the right direction.
So that's $1 billion. Yeah, $1 billion. So now us all the way, did not come all the way to, so we going, local, state, and federal. So now come all the way back. We went federal, now we're state, now all the way back local, and then step outside of government. Those of us activists on the front lines, we know that all they're going to do is allocate that funding to the very same poverty pimps that have been getting all the funding thus far. And so the problem is us on the ground floor, the grassroots folks, while we're knowledgeable, we're not certified to have organizations that actually can receive government funding. So we're not. So we have to. There's compliance issues, and then the whole thing is, in order to get into compliance, we need funding to get up. Do capacity building. Right. That's the actual language it's called. So while there's different, grants here or different funding for capacity building, then there's a whole nother thing of, monkeys in the barrel to try to qualify who's going to get, and then it comes down to who they're going to select. So of course they're going to select the safe, folks instead of those that, are outspoken and could really, kick
Do
up
something.
dust and and it's like, well, we'll review your application and get back to you, and then you never hear from them.
Never hear from them.
And then some folks way out somewhere you never heard of, and then it's so difficult,
right?
But we are, because it's a national conversation now, and that's why I appreciate you having me on the show and really keeping this conversation going. Yeah. And my thing is just about sharing our perspective,
right?
Because it's one thing for the president just blare out like a trumpet and just say some stuff,
right?
And so I want to end this segment with that, on specifically some of the things that what he said. But it's great that you just wise enough to have this conversation and extend the dialogue with a little more in depth.
Well, to me, it is a national emergency.
Yeah.
No, absolutely right.
Yeah.
So now let's go focus on what Trump actually said. So in terms of homelessness, his whole thing was, here in Los Angeles, there's federal land. We're just going to clear it. Some federal land. We're just going to force the homeless folks onto this federal land. Wait. Force? By force? Well, you're going to put a gun to people's head and say you can't be on this
They're
side?
Like internment.
What does that mean?
Like internment camps.
So, so now internment. So homeless folks, they once they go in, can they come and go as they please?
Right.
Because I know folks are scared. Even if you were somehow capable of making them move and go to this, they're coming right back.
Right.
They'll be. Well, all right, Jim. See you tomorrow. Oh no, you can't leave. Well, I can't leave.
It's like prison.
Well, why would? So, based on what? Because they're homeless?
Because economics.
So you're holding them against their will? Mm-hmm. Like, what does that mean? What does that look? So our whole thing is in scare. We need to hear the specifics. I don't know. I mean, this is outlandish.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is just flying off of the. So then we had internal discussions in Skid Row. We kind of have like a secret Skid Row think tank of some of the brightest minds in Skid Row.
Oh, wow.
And I shouldn't even be saying this.
No, I love
But anyway.
that.
So then we're analyzing what this guy is saying. This guy, the president of the United States, is saying. I try to give respect as much as I can.
I don't. But go ahead.
It's really difficult, but at face value. And so then, with this guy saying, so we looked at it. What federal properties, are in Los Angeles?
Where is he talking about?
So there was one federal property somewhere in the Palmdale area.
Is it raining?
I hear it too.
This happened during the last time. It'll go away.
Okay.
It'll go away in a second.
It's great.
We'll fix that in post.
It's the ambiance of the conversation. So then there were two locations that we discovered. So one was in Palmdale, which is still Los Angeles County. Mm-hmm. And then there was another property that was toward the southern end of Hawthorne, California, but it's very, very, very close to the rich folks in Manhattan Beach.
So not in my backyard.
And so you automatically both of those places, and it's like you're not, and so then when you research the Manhattan Beach property or the Hawthorne property, you're going to say those folks in Manhattan Beach they circled their wagons on when they planned on doing some other things with that property, and they're like, you're not doing that here,
right? So
they already they've already shown that they're going to. If they don't agree with what's being proposed, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And those are the two closest parcels. So other than that, we have no idea what the president has put forth enough specifics.
He just made those statements.
He's just saying stuff. And so then I reached out to the higher ups at LAPD. While it's unfortunate that we kind of always are at opposite ends a lot, but there's a definite conversation that needs to happen. Right. It's just like before two countries go to war, they'll send delegations to communicate and see if they can't work some things out, come to some type of agreement. And so while I'm not anti-cop, unfortunately, but there's this lingering energy out there that's like, us versus them. I don't know what that. I don't. Yeah. I want everybody to go home to be with their families at the end of the day. But so I have a rapport with the higher ups at LAPD. I won't get into specifics as far as who, but reached out to them and they said, "Hey, we have nothing to do with this by force or this enforcement thing or whatever the president's talking."
They knew nothing about it.
Right. So they're like, "No, we don't
Trump
know anything."
I think he just said
so
that.
He's just blaring like a trumpet.
I don't think his people even knew anything about it.
Right. So he's blaring like a trumpet, and so then and that's that tough guy talk.
Yeah.
I'm from the streets. So man, I'll come over there and I'll do this and I'll sock you and I'll blah blah blah.
He's from the streets of the ivory tower of the Trump Tower. Yeah, he's really
the mean
from the
street. You got to
streets.
say the mean streets of the Ivy Tower. And so, so after that, so we did our due diligence, vetted that thing, fact checked, and it was like, hogwash, hogwash. So it's like back to
Didn't Beto O'Rourke also make an appearance?
And now I want to say absolutely.
Candidate?
And so I want to say, obviously his thing was strictly politically motivated.
Yeah.
And I thought it's just brilliant when it comes to politics. When Trump announced, I'm getting ready to go here, and Beto's struggling with his numbers and his attention, and so he's like, if he's going to go to Skid Row, I'm going to go to Skid Row before him. So every time Trump's going to Skid Row. Beto was also. So he's automatically attached to that conversation. Everybody's talking about Trump. And Beto. It is. So he's attached. So that was brilliant because none of his competitors did that, or the other candidates. And so that got him a little extra talk time and face time. In terms of, but clearly he, obviously he's not in a position to do anything until he wins.
Right.
But it was just a brilliant move to add his name.
Yeah. But I'm not hearing, you don't hear the conversation in the election right now.
That's what
either.
I was about to say. I was going to say, what if we could get Jeff to speak with some of these presidential
none
candidates?
of the debates. Have I heard anything mentioned about the homeless crisis?
Yeah.
Unless I missed it, I don't think so.
Could you imagine?
Well, the thing is, again, because they look at it like they're talking about big ticket items.
So, like you're saying,
health care for all. So that's that's topics that are of interest.
Well, that should
to the
fall
majority.
under health care for all.
Well, the majority of voting Americans, so it's interesting. The candidates, they get all this. It's kind of like sports where you get all these scouting reports and all this down and what are the topics should I speak on and what the numbers, demographic breakdowns, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. And so then when they analyze that, it's like, okay, well, Medicaid, okay, that's some certain ones feel like that's a talking point that I want to raise. And then homelessness is not a large, and again, it's less than 1% of the population. So.
But what about Marianne Williamson? Don't you think she would be a good one to have a conversation with Jeff about this stuff?
I think she'd be great. Yeah.
I don't know. I think she'll end up in the cabinet in some way.
I'd like to continue talking off air with Jeff about maybe doing a show.
Oh, yeah.
Together on homelessness.
I think that would be awesome.
We can talk. But the time is out.
I know.
I swear to God.
On this show?
Yes.
Yeah.
See?
An hour just goes by so quick.
We need more time.
We do. I told you that's why you need your own show first of all, but we need 2 hours because issues and solutions. We heard a lot of the issues and some of the solutions that you propose and the solutions that they've proposed that aren't working. So we need a show based around that.
Yeah, thank you. Technically, how many seconds do we have left? What do we have left?
We have 2 minutes.
Jeez, I got to talk about the Skid Row Neighborhood Council.
Sure. Yes.
I'm the chair of the Skid Row Neighborhood Council Formation Committee. We're in the process of suing the city of Los Angeles because it's us in Skid Row. None of the politicians' solutions are working. None of the nonprofit solutions. Nothing's working. We want to create our own governing body to where we can put forth our own policies, initiatives, or cleanup campaigns, whatever we want to do to be certified by the city of Los Angeles. So we had an election in 2017. The city of Los Angeles, at the end of the day, cheated us out of our election. So we've gathered.
You almost won.
So we lost by 60 votes, 6-0.
Allegedly.
Thank you. Which is such a closely contentious election anywhere on any level in America. And so we've gathered the evidence, and we're about less than 30 days away from filing our next brief and our addendum, and we're talking about the smoking gun, the mother of all. I mean, we're naming names.
When they say you can't fight City Hall,
right? Well, we're throwing down the gauntlet, and so this is going to be a doozy.
Wow.
We may even end political careers with this one. Is
the press covering this at all?
No, because we haven't filed yet.
Okay.
So that's why I'm just previewing it now, giving you all a
little hint of what's to come.
So I wanted to take these last couple of seconds to say, we're talking about our own solutions.
Yeah.
This is very, very, very vital to us. And once it works in Skid Row, it's going to work to address homeless issues, across the nation. And so this is a big key. And so I'm focused on that. Not so many positive events and feeding homeless. I'm focused on Skid Row politics.
Right.
Lasting change.
And so that's so when we file, I'll definitely hit you guys up.
Well, it's going to
be interesting.
To be continued.
So the addendum is 145 pages plus exhibits, and our writ is about 50 or 60 pages. We're still finishing that up with a whole nother set of 100 or so exhibits. So, I mean, we're coming with it.
We're going to keep everyone updated. Like I said, we're going to talk to Jeff about trying to keep have an ongoing show. Yeah. JW, John, thank you so much.
My pleasure. I always love
Jeff, buddy, can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
God,
I know we could go on for hours, and that's why we need.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is another Heroes and Horrors of Homelessness with General Jeff, and we'll be back soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for checking out One-on-One with Jasper Cole. Check out past episodes and get the latest as they're released. Subscribe today on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube.